to sue. Drink water. Don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Stay.
Now you're more fluent.
Makina, he's got three!
Up, Bears.
So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Welcome to the All American Hoops Podcast, episode 29. I'm Chris Driscoll, and we got an awesome show ahead here. This is going to be pretty different from what the show has been for the past few weeks now. Our main focus has really been on the NBA playoffs and more specifically on the Boston Celtics, which is the team that John, Matt, and I are massive fans of, obviously. So we're still riding that high on being NBA champions. It's been one hell of a week for all of us. Can't even imagine how the players are feeling now and how those fans that live in Boston are feeling now. We've been Celtics fans for a very long time, but I'm talking about specifically those that both live in the area and have been fans for a while. So we're definitely feeling really good for them right now. But obviously, the NBA is a 12-month sport, so there's definitely a lot to talk about and think about. Obviously, JJ Redick was just hired to be the head coach of the Lakers. He had his press conference yesterday. We'll talk about that. Talk about the Lakers ceiling and how much he's going to change the culture there. It should be very interesting to see how that works out. We'll talk about free agency because obviously that's one of the bigger talks always, whether it's in season or out of season. It's becoming less of a talk with the way the new CBA works, which, again, we're going to talk about that because that's going to be one of the details of free agency. We'll make predictions for free agency. And, of course, what's the sports podcast without making predictions? So we'll be discussing some of our sleeper picks for this year than they were last year, or even some of the teams that were worse than they were this year. So great show ahead of us. This is the All American Hoops Podcast. Welcome to the show. As always, I'm joined by my older brother, John Driscoll.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
And my younger brother, Matt Driscoll.
Chris, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as I mentioned, the three of us are still on that championship high. I don't think that's going to really go away until the beginning of the season. But, however, I do believe that since we're all miserable sports fans, that high will go away once the Celtics lose. Either lose one game or in a game where they they're probably going to play the Knicks or the Lakers or someone else on opening night. Yeah, so when either Jalen Brunson or LeBron James scores an opening bucket. So imagining that high will fade out very, very quickly once the season starts. But for now, we're on a great mood for the next few months. So if you want to see three guys in a great mood for the next 3 months, tune in on Tuesday, 6 o'clock via the Sports Fluent Media. I don't do that enough. I don't give credit to Sports Fluent enough at the beginning of the show. Got to start doing that a little more. But yeah, so great show ahead of us. So we'll be talking. Yeah. So first thing we're going to talk about is the most recent hiring for head coach, or second most recent hiring, because I believe that Kenny Atkinson was hired yesterday for the Cavs. But however, the bigger story is JJ Redick being hired by the LA Lakers. So, Matt, do you have a named head coach? I don't know if I faded out there, but Matt, do you want to give your takeaways on that?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't hear you there. JJ to the Lakers. This was kind of like one of the worst kept secrets in the league after Dan Hurley turned down the job and decided to return to UConn. I could see it going a couple ways. I'm not too optimistic about it. I'm a big fan of JJ Redick. I like his podcast. I think he's pretty good in the booth as well. But I think he might be one of the two player-friendly guys. You know, some of the coaches that are too pro-player sometimes don't work out. I could see that possibly happening. I think he will be an upgrade from Darvin Ham. I know we talked about how Darvin Ham kind of got a little bit of unfair treatment from Laker fans, but I think that happens to all Laker coaches. But I do not think he was a good head coach at all. I think it's a tough role for JJ to step in. You know, the Lakers head coaching job is not really an appealing job to a lot of people. I mean, it is at LA. It is one of the most historic franchises of all time, but coaching a team with not a lot of draft picks in the future, with coaching LeBron, even though he is one of the best players of all time, a great teammate, he is tough to coach. He does make a lot of decisions. So it is tough to coach. The Lakers ceiling, I mean, every year they're going to compete for a championship. I or attempt to compete for a championship. I do not see that this year. I think there's a couple of teams in the West that are better, but we'll see what they do in the offseason for free agency.
Yeah, Matt, you make a lot of good points here. I think that you're right. It was probably the worst kept secret in the league that he was going to be the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I think he could. I think with this move, it's like a high risk, high reward kind of move where, I think with these young, exciting coaches that, like analytics, but they're just like around the same age as like some of the players. I think it's one of those things where when everything's going good, like he looks great, but when stuff starts to tumble and when stuff starts to go, get tough, how is he going to respond? Sometimes, or a lot of the times, I guess, when stuff goes wrong with these early, young coaches, unless your name's Joe Mazzulla, you don't really, you struggle to make adjustments. So I think that it's a somewhat significant upgrade from Darvin Ham. I think Darvin Ham was he was the scapegoat and he got a lot of criticism, but I think a lot of that criticism was probably, and like we mentioned before, like coaching LeBron's probably one of the hardest things to do, but he was not very good as a head coach. I mean, I think you can look at it on both sides. Their ceiling's a little tough to see. I think a lot of stuff's going to happen in the offseason. They're going to have to make some moves. They're going to have to figure it out. I think their ceiling could be like a top 4 to 5 team in the West. The problem is the West is just so strong. But if you get healthy seasons from LeBron and AD, and then you can probably bring somebody else in, shooters, good defenders, good role players, then you can probably, find yourself. The problem is I think LeBron and AD have kind of realized that, or at least they have the mentality that they can kind of coast to the regular season and then try to turn it on in the playoffs. And that just hasn't really worked over the last 4 years. But I think, ceiling wise, they could be a top 5 team in the West. It could be interesting to see how JJ Redick kind of leads them though.
Yeah, so the Lakers finished as the 7th seed last year, and 7th seed, 2 years in a row. And many kind of saw the Lakers run to the conference finals last year as a sign for the future. And yeah, and that was valid because they finished the 2023 season pretty strong, and that they made a few changes and severely updated their roster. And many said that the Lakers won their offseason because, they re-signed Reeves, they got Christian Wood, a couple other ones that are missing. But many saw that this is going to be a great season for the Lakers, and obviously wasn't. And though many still think the Lakers were the Nuggets lost in the second round, and the team that they lost to didn't even make it to the finals, who lost to the team that lost to the team in the finals. So very tough going to predict what the Lakers are going to be. 7th seed now. Obviously, it's way too early to tell. We're going to come back next week and see. I don't see this team going past the first round next year.
Bold take. First round exit?
First round exit.
Whoa. I mean, that's what they were this year, so not really that bold of a take. But
okay, so yeah, obviously we're dealing with some technical difficulties now. We're going to try to push it through as best we can, but we're just going to try to do that. But so that's my the playing game altogether. So I don't know what you got, Matt. What's your prediction on that? If you way too early prediction for that?
Sorry, you said way too early prediction for lower seeds. Was that what you asked?
For the Lakers. For the Lakers.
Oh, for the Lakers.
Yeah.
It's really tough to predict right now because obviously free agency hasn't been in full effect yet, or it hasn't officially started yet. But I believe that the Lakers probably will be around what they were last year, around a 7 seed, and probably a playing team. I think they will I mean, anytime they're in the play-in, I think they will come out of the play-in. But I think they'll be a play-in team, and I think they'll lose in the first round to a team that's just better than them, like maybe the Timberwolves or the Nuggets again.
Anything you, John, prediction-wise, Lakers? You muted. I don't know if that's me.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think that just it really depends on how their offseason is trending. I think with JJ Redick, he's pretty analytically driven, and I think he's going to want to bring in guys who are efficient from the three-point line and can also defend. I think if JJ Redick could, he'd bring in 6 Derek Whites, and he would probably go 82-0. But I think that it really just depends on their offseason because you can go so far with LeBron and AD. They put up great numbers, and I think it's kind of scary if you're a Lakers fan because they got a healthy Anthony Davis last year, and they only kind of figured it. They didn't really figure it out. I think that they need to fill the holes around those two. I think Reeves is a good player. Is he really good enough to be your 3 or 4 guy? I don't think so. I think D'Lo's a good player. Like they have a lot of like good players, but like you see the way the league is trending, like you need better 3rd and 4th options if you want to make a run, especially in the Western Conference.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that because I remember JJ was even the one who said after the Lakers missed the playoffs in 2022, you can't win with top heavy rosters, which is exactly what the Lakers are on now. I don't think that D'Lo or Austin can be the 3rd option, the 3rd option on a championship team. Can they be the 4th option? I think you need a much better 3rd option in order for one of them to be the 4th option. And I just don't know who that would be because I don't think that D'Lo can be the 3rd option, the starting point guard on a championship team. If they bring in a guy like DeJounte Murray, they don't have many assets to give that up. But the Lakers feels like they find a way to move some of their smaller pieces and like their 1 draft pick for other players, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. But yeah, I don't know if DeJounte Murray is available. I do know that I'd be shocked if the Hawks didn't trade at least one of Trey or DeJounte. But they need to make some improvements in their backcourt because if Derek White and Jrue Holiday proved anything this offseason is that backcourt defense matters. And even though rim defense does matter extremely, and I'm someone who's advocated for rim defense being more important than perimeter defense on the show before, you got to have both. And I do think the fact that 4 centers made first team all defense is just a little not only unfair, but it's just a little a little disingenuous just because. I don't think those 4 guys, like 4 centers, are going to be the most impactful players if you're going to build a defensive lineup. So yeah, you do need perimeter defense, and I think that the Lakers are going to need some type of playmaker to give LeBron some rest there because they got a healthy season out of LeBron and AD, and they were first round exits. We hope to see a full healthy season of LeBron and AD again. I don't know how realistic it is. So that's why I say first round exit is their ceiling. I don't think they're going to win a playoff series this round unless they get lucky with matchups, like if they play the Suns or something in their first round. Okay, so speaking of predictions, we're going to talk about some way too early predictions with other teams, but outside the Lakers. So I'm someone who's pretty confident in my picks. I think that. A lot of my takes have aged well. A lot of them have aged very poorly. I did predict the Celtics to win the finals this year. I also all 20 of the teams that I had making the play-in tournament / playoffs ended up making it. The 10 teams that I had out didn't make it, so that was great. I did, however, have the Knicks finishing the 7th seed this year and the Lakers finishing the 3rd seed. So I'm very, very hit or miss in my predictions. However, there are certain and also I predict they will land the Magic to be a top 6 team in the East this year too, and they were the 5 seed. So very, very hit or miss. Like when I hit, like I feel very smart, but when I miss, I'm like, dude, what the hell are you thinking? So I'll give some of my teams that I think that were lower playoff teams last year that I think are going to be like might be like a top 4 seed this year. So sleeper anymore because we've seen them both play in the playoffs. But the first one I have is the Indiana Pacers. I am a firm believer in the Indiana Pacers now. After watching them in the playoffs, they just re-signed Pascal Siakam. I think that was a great move. I don't know if he's probably like a top 30-ish player, but he's still someone that comes that rises to the occasion in the playoffs. And also, they just have the young core as well. And not for nothing, they didn't win a game against the Celtics, but I still feel like all 4 of the games that they played against the Celtics were, 3 out of the 4 games they played against the Celtics were very competitive. And I don't think any other team did that throughout the run. So give the Pacers mad props. And even though I said right after they were eliminated that they should consider making some moves, I think they should give it another year of seeing how their young team is right now. And I can definitely see them making the conference finals yet again. And the other team is a team that I had last year, and I mentioned earlier. These the Orlando Magic. Paolo Banchero was slightly disappointing this year for me. And he made the All-Star game, but I still feel like I saw some flashes with him rookie season that I thought he was going to be better his sophomore year. But I still believe in Paolo Banchero. I think that he can be like an All-NBA caliber player. Maybe not this year, but definitely this upcoming year. But definitely by his 4th year, maybe his 3rd year. But I wouldn't go that far yet. But I'm a firm believer in the Orlando Magic, and I definitely think there is a world where they have to be like the Pacers this year. They have to get lucky with matchups to make a conference finals. But I do think there is a world where that exists. What are your guys' takes on those predictions?
John, if you don't mind, I'll go first. I totally agree with you on the Pacers. I think the Pacers are awesome. I think they're kind of approaching it the right way of being a good team for a little bit before trying to make the next step of being like a real contender. They're extending their guys. They're paying their guys, which is great. Siakam's extension, I think that was the correct move. I said on the podcast a couple weeks ago, I think you have to pay him. They already have Halliburton for the next, I think, 4 years. Maybe, I forget when he signed the Supermax if it was last offseason. But they also have a lot of young guys. Nesmith plays hard. Nembhard's an absolute stud. He was unbelievable against the Celtics. And your pick on the Magic, the Chris Driscoll Magic. You've been a pushing their agenda for quite some time now. I don't know if their ceiling, you said conference finals. I don't know how good they are. We'll see. You know, they have been linked to some guys in the offseason. I keep seeing Klay Thompson's name in the mix. If they get Klay, I don't even know if they make the play-in, but we'll see who they get in the offseason. They have some money to spend. I think Paolo makes another jump. Wagner obviously is going to make another jump. But yeah, they're definitely fun to watch.
I just had to add 2 more teams to my low playoff teams that will jump to a higher seed because you took both of mine. I took the Pacers and the Magic. I think we were all very impressed with how the Pacers played this postseason. You could say they faced an injured Bucks team and an injured Knicks team, and then got smoked by the Celtics. But that's just like looking at box scores. That's taking stuff out of context. I think that they played extremely well. The extension for Pascal Siakam was excellent. I think that was definitely the right move. I think if they want to make the jump, you know, they did finish the 6th seed. If they want to make that jump into the top 4, they need to get a guy that can play both sides of the ball, that can improve your defense without sacrificing too much offense. But I think that they are in a position where they can bring a guy that maybe isn't really that strong on offense, but really specializes on the defensive end because they need that. And you saw them struggle with that down the stretch, especially in clutch time against the Celtics. When their offense kind of goes cold, they didn't really have much of an answer. They couldn't really answer that as well. They couldn't lock down on defense the way the Celtics did. And then with your Magic pick, I totally agree. I think just put it in simple terms, like everyone's just getting like a year older and another year of experience. I think Paolo is going to take a nice little leap. I think they have a really good core. First round exit this year, but it was a tough 7 games to a Cavs team that was pretty good. I think they were a pretty strong 4 seed. So I think those 2, and I can mention 2 other teams I kind of had a thought of, and that was Chris Driscoll's Pelicans. I thought they played they kind of ran into some injury problems towards the end of the year, and they got some pretty poor playoff games from Brandon Ingram. And I know, maybe sometimes we'll slander Brandon Ingram because he gets put into conversations with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown where it doesn't belong. But I think Brandon Ingram is a very good player. And if you get a healthy Zion Williamson, then you could probably take a little bit of a leap in the Western Conference. But we'll see. And then, easy pick for my other pick was just the Sixers. I mean, they finished at a 7 seed this year, and that was primarily because Joel Embiid was hurt. If he can stay healthy, it's a big if, but I think they can hop into the top 3 of the East. Tyrese Maxey's probably going to take another, little leap. He played great in the postseason as that, primary ball handler. And, with Tobias Harris leaving, I don't think they're going to bring him back. I think, Philadelphia might burn down if they do that. But, you have another open slot. So, I mean, we'll talk about it later on in the show with, specific free agents. But do you bring in a Paul George, maybe OG Anunoby, maybe DeMar DeRozan? If you, I know he's older, but if you bring him in on like a 3-year deal, you get some scoring there. Let's be honest, DeMar is probably the later stages of career, obviously, but he's definitely an upgrade over Tobias Harris. So they have options, and I think they can really add and strengthen up their, because they do need that a third scorer at the least.
Yeah, that was an awesome last team, John. Way to steal mine. Pretty obvious one's the Sixers, like you said. It's just like comes down to if Embiid stays healthy and if he doesn't, pee his pants like he does the majority of the playoffs. But I think they totally can be a 3 seed. I think fully healthy, and if they get a guy, like if they trade for a Brandon Ingram or if they sign Paul George or OG, I know Dean's watching, you'd probably burn down Rockaway Beach Queens if OG Anunoby signs in Philly. But I think any number 3 option they sign / trade for will work out better than Tobias Harris. It's second year with Nick Nurse too, so the culture will be there. I think they'll totally be a top 4 seed in the East. My second team is kind of a weird pick. I don't think there would be a high seed in the West, but I think they will make the play-in, maybe even win the play-in and make the playoffs. That's the San Antonio Spurs. I know they were really, really awful this year, but I think Wembanyama is going to make a massive jump. I think by the end of this year, he could be a top 20 player in the league. I don't even know like where you guys would put him now, but I think he's going to be so good this year. They have an early pick in the draft. I saw they might take the center from UConn. So if they pair him with Wemby, that could be a very dangerous front court if he develops well. And they might trade for a playmaker. They had like Jeremy Shohan bringing up the ball for the majority of the year this year, and he kind of stinks. So maybe they'll get – I know people keep saying, they'll Trae Young, but the Spurs are like not interested in him. But I don't know who they would get in free agency or who they would trade for, but just someone that could dish the ball well. I think they could possibly make the play-in and possibly make the playoffs.
Yeah, you stole my lottery teams. I will jump into playoff teams.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that was an actual section.
But that's a good pick. I think the Spurs are definitely a team that's going to make a leap, and I think they should definitely trade. And you mentioned taking that kid from UConn would be awesome. I think he's a great player, and they definitely need to trade for a playmaker. And like you mentioned, Trae Young's been tossed around a lot. I don't know if them saying they're not interested is just like a negotiating tactic or what. But I mean, we slander Trae Young a lot for his, he's a ball dominant guy. He doesn't really play defense, but pair him with Wemby, they put up some dangerous numbers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, it's funny, Brendan. Yeah, like this was a few minutes ago, but Brandon Ingram it was a consensus take that Brandon Ingram was better than Jaylen Brown by a lot of fan bases outside of Boston. So it's pretty cool saying that Jaylen Brown has jumped from Brandon Ingram talks to Devin Booker talks. So that's very, very cool to see. I got to be honest. I don't know many lottery teams. Like a lot of the lottery teams are really put in bad situations outside the Spurs. I would say the Detroit Pistons, but however, I did have the Detroit Pistons as one of my teams jumping last year, and they ended up being the worst team in the league. So they do in the number 4 pick this year. Maybe they draft another wing to pair up with Cade, and Cade, I think that Jay Nagby is going to get a lot more playing time this year. I think he's going to have a great season. Jalen Duren's awesome as well. He had a great start to the season. I think he's going to continue on with that. So I think just like another wing, and whoever they bring in as head coach, I think that JJ actually would have been really good for these guys because he would have been coaching younger guys. But I don't know who they're going to bring in. Sam Cassell would be another great option. I don't see it. No, yeah, I hope not either. But yeah, he would be a great option for them. And would definitely be Pistons would be on my radar for rooting. I think they will be on my radar no matter what. I think they're going to be a team that I root for. That would only go up if they end up hiring Sam Cassell. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Cade Cunningham. He is injury prone, so this might be this might be the last year that I'm in on him. But however, I do believe in him. I think that he can be an all-star one day. But yeah, this is going to be I think this is the year that we're going to tell. It's like usually like year 4 or 5 is when we decide this is the type of player you are.
A team I kind of thought of that could make a leap from the lottery to the play-in maybe in the East is the Charlotte Hornets. Interesting kind of stuff over there. I know LaMelo's, you never know what you're going to get from him, but you can't really deny his talent. Who knows how much he's going to play? If he is going to play, I don't know, but really, really talented guard, obviously. And we all love, especially, I really love Brandon Miller coming out of that draft. I thought he was clearly the pick over Scoot Henderson. I don't know what Portland was doing there, but he had a great rookie year. Probably what did he come in third in rookie of the year? He'd probably, Victor Wembanyama wasn't there, and then you run into Chet in his second year. I get it, but in a normal year, he probably makes a push for that rookie of the year. And if Adam Silver is going to continue to let that scumbag Miles Bridges play, let's be honest, he's a good player. That's a good addition there too. They have Seth Curry and Grant Williams. Those are good role players, and they can make a push to maybe make it into the play-in. But that was just a team I kind of thought I wasn't thinking of earlier, but I thought off the top of my head.
Did you mention Charles Lee too?
Oh, sorry.
I did not mention Charles Lee. That is a great point, though. Joe Mazzulla coaching tree starting off.
I'm saying, yeah. Who knows? But yeah, Joe Mazzulla is.
I have one more team as well. The Toronto Raptors, I think, might make a leap depending on what they do in free agency. I really like their head coach. I'm blanking on his name right now. I thought I had it written down, but I don't. But the dude, he's from some Eastern European country, but I think he did a good job with them last year. They just re-signed Scotty Barnes. I think he makes another jump. Emmanuel Quickley is a restricted free agent. RJ Barrett has played awesome on the Raptors. I know it was quietly because the Raptors, really didn't do much. But if they go out and sign somebody, I think they could possibly make the play-in and maybe not make some noise in the first round, but win the play-in and make the first round.
Darko Rakovic is that how you say his name?
Yeah, he had that one video of hyping up Scotty Barnes. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was awesome. That's when I started liking him. I think he's a good coach, and I think they're going to make a jump.
Scotty Barnes could go on and have a Hall of Fame career. Whenever I'm going to think about Scotty Barnes, I'm going to think about how he was drafted 23rd out of 24th in our All-Star draft ahead of Damian Lillard, who was drafted 24th out of 24th. Yeah, great memories there.
That pick's looking better and better.
It is. That's for sure. However, Doc Rivers told us on the Bill Simmons podcast that the only reason why Dame didn't go far is because he wasn't in basketball shape when that's not what I was told all of last offseason. I was told that he was going to join the Heat, and then it was going to be at the end of it was going to be over for the league. But I digress. And then, yes, speaking of Damian, speaking of guys falling off, we were going to jump into teams that we think will fall off now. I have 2 teams in mind, but however, yeah, I was selfish the first time around. So, John, why don't you go over your teams for that now?
I think the Miami Heat are going to fall off. I think they are frauds and they coast every regular season, and it bites them in the ass some of the time. It bit them in the ass this year. All it took was a shameless Jimmy Butler foul bait injury for them in a playing game that they shouldn't have been in. I mean, you can, Sixers and Heat in that playing game, you can excuse the Sixers being in that playing game because Joel Embiid was hurt, a majority of the year. Jimmy Butler and the Heat coasted all regular season, and it bit them in the ass. And I think that, you don't even know if Jimmy Butler is going to be back next year. He could go somewhere else. I know Caleb Martin is testing free agency. I don't think they're going to bring him back. it's kind of a, I could be eating my words next year because who knows, they'll bring in, somebody that plays with us at St. Denis and Eric Spoelstra will turn him into a 45% 3-point shooter. But I think there's a lot of uncertainty over there. And until they bring in somebody who's going to take the regular season seriously to be their 1A, I don't see them at least like cracking into the top 5. And I think there's a risk of them falling out of like the 7 or 8 seed. So that's my pick that I think will fall off.
Yeah, John, I totally agree with that. I'm shocked that loser grandpa Udonis Haslem chose them to contend with the Celtics for the East next year because they had a superstar in Tyler Hero, which if we're calling Tyler Hero a superstar, I think we should start calling Jordan Walsh a superstar as well. Giving out that title. But I totally agree with that. They like you said, the regular season is important, and some teams do not take the regular season. They took it kind of as a joke this year. The Lakers kind of did it, and the Heat did as well. And you saw how that ended up in the playoffs. My team for this, you said the Cavs are really good. I think the Cavs are pretty good, but obviously it will depend on how free agency goes. But they could possibly trade Donovan Mitchell if he doesn't want to stay in Cleveland, if he doesn't sign the extension. So obviously if they trade Donovan Mitchell, I think they will have a massive fall off. Darius Garland is too inconsistent to be obviously a number 1 option on a playoff team. He really showed that he kind of crumbles in games, which a lot of players do, but he really had a bad playoffs this year. New coach, it could work out well. It could be could not be a good fit. So the Cavs are my team that might fall off this year.
Yeah, as much as I like Kenny Atkinson and I like Kenny Atkinson and I obviously love Donovan Mitchell, but as much as I love Donovan Mitchell, my philosophy will always stand on it will always be very tough to build around smaller guards, especially unless you're Steph Curry, and Steph isn't really small. He's just 6'3". He's 6'3". He's like which is a point guard, but that's not really small. I'm talking about small guards: Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young. Those guys are pretty tough to build around, and I think there is a world where even if they keep Donovan Mitchell where they're a playing team, I don't think that'll happen. But if you told me that today that they're going to be playing team next year, I won't scoff at you. There's a couple of teams like this. I think there was more teams out like that out west. I think it's a lot of the older teams. I'm going to go the complete opposite direction of what I went last year. And I can't believe I didn't bring this up for my bad predictions, but I think the LA Clippers are going to take a big step back. As much as I love Kawhi Leonard, if he's healthy, for the regular season, they can finish as a top 4 seed like they usually do. But how can we predict that? This is officially 4 years now that he has not finished in the playoffs, and I'm going to give the analogy like I do for Joel Embiid. So I'm going to talk Mr. Driscoll, the teacher here, talking. You can be a student. If you're a student, you show up every day to class. You behave really well. You get all your work done. You study very hard. You participate in class. If you show up 120 out of the 180 school days, and then by the end of the school year, when you take the final exam, you're not going. It's not going to work out well for you. And that's the way that I feel about Kawhi Leonard and Joel Embiid, which is why I feel like those guys are going to be pretty tough to build around. So yeah, the Clippers are my choice. A couple others I could have thought of. I could have thought of the Suns as another one of those teams. Obviously, the way that they're built now is very tough. Like I'm also not a big fan of Mike Budenholzer at all. I'll give one more team in a little bit. But yeah, what do you guys think about those picks?
I had the Suns on my list, but let me talk about the Clippers first. I totally agree with that. It's kind of like, where do they go from here, especially if Paul George walks? Like, you can't rely on Kawhi anymore. Like, and if you told me like 3 years ago that Kawhi Leonard isn't a top 10 player, like I would laugh in your face. But now it's just like, you got to like, availability is the best ability, like you said, Chris. And it's tough to rank him because obviously he's one of the most talented players in the league. But like, if you're not showing up and you're not finishing the season, I can't trust you. I'm not going to build my team around you. And, the Clippers are kind of in a bad spot right now. I think that's a very good pick. And I had the Suns on my list. Kevin Durant played 75 games last year and they got swept in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen again. I don't think Kevin Durant's going to stay healthy for the whole year. You said that Jaylen Brown is in Devin Booker talks. I think it's more Devin Booker's and Jaylen Brown talks because but I do think Devin Booker is a great player, but when is his contract up next season too?
I don't know.
I think it's next year.
He was drafted in 2015, so yeah, it's probably next year.
Yeah, I believe it's next year. If they have a bad year, he could walk, and then they have no picks until 2029, 2030, I think. They're in a horrible spot, and they're old, and they have no depth. And, shout out Dean again one more time. He said there'd be a first-round exit from the beginning of the season, and he was right. I think they're going to be a play-in team this year. Maybe not. Maybe they'll be a 6 seed, but I think they're going to be another first-round exit. I think that's really their ceiling.
Yeah, I had the Suns and the Clippers as in that order. The two teams I think would fall off for reasons that you mentioned. I think that we've talked about it a bunch on this podcast. That Bradley Beal contract is awful, and you gave up all of your future for that third star that you could see from far away that like there was a high chance he was not going to mesh with those two. And I think Devin Booker and Kevin Durant did all they could to, bring him in. And, Devin Booker took a playmaking leap. He kind of, played that point guard position a little more than the shooting guard position. But they're older. I mean, aside from Devin Booker. And I think that if you see them falling, if they're, a consistent 7-8 seed this year, do you make a move at the deadline? Do you try to, do you attach better players to that, or I don't even know how you can move Bradley Beal because that contract is so terrible, and he's a good scorer, and it's like I don't really see like a small market team just being a struggling small market team like the Pistons being like, okay, yeah, we're okay with him coming in here and averaging 27 a game and winning 15 games. Like I don't think that's smart for anybody to do. So the Suns are my pick, and then the Clippers, I think. The Clippers are I guess less so. I feel less strongly about this pick, but it's kind of almost too obvious that you just don't know what their team's going to look like next year. I think Paul George is going to walk, and I think that they probably bring back James Harden on like a shorter deal, probably because he just loves the nightlife in Los Angeles. But then you're running into a year with James Harden, and I get they have good role players, but like James Harden and 45 games of Kawhi, like it's not sustainable. It's not something that you should be confident in as a Clippers fan. So definitely I think the Suns are going to fall off, and which is crazy to say, just like with a team led by Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, like it shouldn't be like that, but they did. It was almost like malpractice the way they brought Bradley Beal, and I think most people thought that wasn't going to work out, and it didn't.
I mean, sorry not to cut you off, Chris, but it's like what we said earlier in the podcast. Like you need to have a very solid third option, a very good third option, and like you need perimeter defense. They don't have that. They don't have any depth. You need depth. Like the league is just moving in a direction where you can't just be top heavy. I think Chris said that earlier. Like it's just like it's not winning basketball, and it's they're in a terrible spot.
Roster construction matters, kiddos. So, and one last team I wanted to bring up, teams that might fall off. However, this isn't a team that's falling off because they're already at rock bottom. I'm going to go with the Warriors also as well because they stink. If Klay Thompson resigns to the Warriors, they're going to stay there. If he leaves, I think the Warriors will win the championship next year. So that's the point that I'm at now. And of course, and obviously, hopefully Draymond's therapy ends up working too, to where he doesn't have to punch someone in the face in order for him to stay on the court. But that's not going to work out either. But
inside NBA member Draymond Green, who trashed the old media his entire 2022 season, now is kissing the feet of the inside TNT crew, inside NBA crew.
That's right.
I would never trash inside NBA. If they want to have me on, or have any of us on, they're more than welcome to.
That's right. Okay, cool. So, So now we're gonna get into a pretty fun segment. So we're gonna we have plenty of time. But yeah, we're gonna predict where each top NBA free agent will sign. What do you think, guys? Do we want to go top to bottom, or do we want to go bottom to top?
It's up to you. I
think we should go top to bottom.
Yeah.
So, some of these are a little bit easier. Some of these are not so hard, but the first one's pretty easy. So why don't we do if someone's easier? Why don't we go with 2 picks instead? So, number one is okay. So the first one is LeBron James. We can all agree that he's going to resign with the Lakers. If there's a weird possibility where, he and Rob Pelinka get into a fist fight, and then Jeanie Buss, for whatever reason, decides to go with Rob Pelinka over LeBron James. Who will LeBron James decide to sign with instead?
I really don't know if it's not the Lakers, but probably wherever Bronny goes. So maybe the Suns, like, they'll trade Devin Booker or something and get LeBron. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think it's the Lakers, but if not, the Suns, I don't know, somewhere out west.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I didn't really prepare. I just put Lakers because I thought there wasn't much of a chance. But if everything kind of goes to all hell, do you say the Clippers because it's in LA, or maybe Houston? I know he was rumored to go there a couple of years ago. There's a young core there, but I don't really think he wants to play with a young core right now. And then maybe shot in the dark Philly. We know he likes to kind of play with superstars, and Joel Embiid's there with Tyrese Maxey. They got an open max slot. So I guess that's obviously all hypotheticals, and he will be signing with the Lakers, but it's fun to think about.
If LeBron does not sign with the Lakers, which he will, I think the next possible team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think that's the it's gonna be.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, that's the next one, I think. This one's probably the most one that's up in the air now. Paul George.
John, you can go first. I went first last time.
So are we saying 2 teams here?
We scratch that. You just go with one from now on. Yeah, that was a dumb idea.
All right. Yeah, I just because I could probably name a couple teams here for Paul George, and I don't want to take any away, but I think the number one pick I would say for Paul George is the Warriors. I think he would be a pretty fun matchup, or not matchup, but pairing with Steph Curry, and I think Klay Thompson is. I predict, we'll talk about him later, but I think he might be leaving. And that's a clear upgrade, in my opinion, from Klay to Paul George. I know he's a little bit older, but he's a better defender and a better, he is a little more ISO heavy than Klay Thompson, but I think Paul George is going to the Warriors.
Going from Klay Thompson to Paul George is like going from a tricycle to a Lexus. Comparing them is a little disrespectful, Paul George. The Warriors would be an interesting fit. I have him going to Philly. Like you said, they have that max spot. I think Tobias Harris is out of there. I think him as a number 3 option would work well in Philly. I think we talked about it a little earlier. I think they should trade for Brandon Ingram. I think he would be a better number 3. I don't think he's a better player, but I think he would take the number 3 role better. But I think the Sixers go for it and they go get Paul George.
I don't know. I know the talks between Paul George and Philly faded like last week, but I also heard that they're not closing the door on it altogether. The Warriors, there'd be a couple sign-in trades there. The Thunder have a lot of cap space. Maybe he goes back there, but however, that's like, I wouldn't trust him if I'm in the Thunder's place. Is there any possibility he resigns with the Clippers? No, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
There's a sliver of a chance, but that's not what I would think.
No, I wouldn't think so either, but I don't know. He seems pretty – I feel like when in doubt for a lot of these, I usually end up saying they'll just resign with their old team. But, yeah, it seems like he's not really there. So, yeah, I'm going to say the Sixers too, just because like a little reverse jinx, hopefully a little reverse jinx action there. But, yeah, like it just makes most sense that he resigns with the Sixers. They have the cap space for him. He fills that Tobias Harris void perfectly. Not only are you, in some cases, adding by subtraction, you're adding by adding as well. So like that's always huge. So yeah, the Sixers would be a fantastic fit, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Is there a chance if the Knicks whiff on OG, they bring in him?
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of which, OG Anunoby.
You can go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think OG Anunoby, he declined his player option, I think this morning. It might have been last night. I think some team is going to offer him a ton of money like the Sixers. I think it's going to be upwards of $40 million a year, and I think the Knicks are going to match that and pay him a ton of money. I think he's going to get signed with the Knicks and make like well over $40 million a year.
Yeah, this one and the next player we have on our list are the two that I was most interested in talking about. I think OG is going to get over $40 million a year, and that's a good point there. OG was not the biggest fan of Nick Nurse, and I don't blame him because he's a dork. And I think that, we mentioned it a little bit earlier on, when talking about the Sixers. Do the Sixers bring in him as that third star? I'm not sure if he gives you enough offensive firepower, but it's also more offensive firepower than Tobias Harris. And if he's taking third option shots, maybe he turns into like more of a 20-point per game player. And you know what he's giving you on the defensive end. I think that'll be pretty cool to see. But I do think, and I see a lot of people talking about, over 40 million is an overpay. I just think that's what the market is right now. Everyone talked about how overpaid Jaylen Brown was, and he shut everybody up. He showed that he's worth that money. I think if you give a guy like that, who's, not at the beginning of his career, but entering his prime, that kind of money, you put your faith and your confidence behind him, he can kind of prove you right for doing that. So I think that, Matt, you were right that he's going to get a couple offers from other teams of north of $40 million, and I think he'll give the Knicks a chance to match that. And I think he will go back to the Knicks, and I think that would be the smart move for him. I don't think you really should put any stock in worrying about an overpay, because I just think that's what the market is right now.
You have to overpay for your guys. Like it just is what it is. In a couple of years, it won't be an overpay. People said that the Knicks overpaid Jalen Brunson. Now it's one of the best contracts in basketball.
And I don't think that. And I would say, say if Philly offers him 47 or whatever, and the Knicks offer him 40 or 42, I don't think he's loyal to the Knicks. As much as he probably enjoyed his time there, and as much as he probably had fun with that playoff run and how much of a good fit it is, I mean, he played there for a couple months, so I don't think he's going to be taking too much of a pay cut. Maybe if it's Miller to a year or whatever, but if it's a substantial difference, I think he'll go to where the highest bidder is.
100% agree with all that. And yeah, I think he reached down to the Knicks. I think the Knicks, given the money that they need, because they did get rid of RJ Barrett and
quickly.
IQ. Yeah, I don't know if it was IQ or Grimes. Yeah, it was IQ that they that they traded, and those were two. Even though the two of them aren't great players, I do think that's they were fan favorites, and you're not just gonna and even though the Knicks were great for those couple months there, it would be pretty disappointing if you traded those two guys for second round exits. So definitely overpay for OG if you feel the need to, because at the end, even though it may seem like an overpay, at the end of the day, you're doing it because you're the best team that you've been in a while. So do the best you can there. Speaking of OG, we got his teammate Isaiah Hartenstein. I think John will be up next there for that, right?
Yeah, I was really excited to talk about Hartenstein. I think that he made himself a lot of money in this playoff run. He did a lot of things that teams look for, crashing the offensive boards, just being a rim protector. I think that's almost rare in today's NBA. Everyone's obviously looking for those versatile wings, and that's that's obviously the most valuable in the NBA now. But I will say, every team needs an Isaiah Hartenstein, guys who can crash the boards, bang down low with the bigs, especially in the East when you got to go up against Giannis and Embiid. There were two teams I had for him here. Obviously the Knicks, as we talked about. I think he's going to be looking for a lot of money, and rightfully so. I think he deserves that. But when I think that a team that can maybe blow the Knicks out of the water with a thing is the Thunder. I think they have the space, and they have a need at that kind of the bruiser big man. Their big men right now are Chet and Bismack Biyombo, unless I'm forgetting somebody. I know they're like a a long team and they go small and they're kind of successful going small. But I think there's actually more of an avenue for Hartenstein over OG Anunoby to return to the Knicks on more of a team-friendly deal. But I think if the Thunder offer him like a ton of money and the Knicks don't match it, or if they think that they can't offer OG 45 and then Isaiah Hartenstein what the Thunder are offering, I think there's an avenue for him to go there.
Yeah, awesome. Again, John, you took two of my teams. I think this is kind of like, him with the Knicks is obviously an obvious pick for him to re-sign. I think he will resign if the Knicks trade Mitchell Robinson. I know they're testing out his trade value and everything. If they don't sign Mitch, I think he will go to the Thunder. We were talking the other day with a fan of the pod, Tyler Calzaretta, also a big Thunder fan. He was talking about how, Chet is really a 4. He's not really a 5. He's 7'1", but he was exposed in the playoffs a little bit by Lively and I'm blanking. Oh, and Max Kleba.
Gafford too.
Oh, and Gafford. Yeah, so the Thunder really need a 5, and it's not like Isaiah Hartenstein is just like this big guy that, just grabs boards and everything. He is very elite at that, but he's also like a very underrated playmaker. We saw him make a lot of tough passes. He does the dirty work, which a lot of the Thunder guys do, but I mean, adding a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein is awesome for the Thunder, and it definitely jumps them into title contention.
Yeah, you guys nailed everything there. The number one issue that the Thunder had in the playoffs last year was their rebounding, and even whether you want to argue whether Chet's a 4 or 5 or not, you do need some depth. And I don't know if Isaiah Hartenstein can be like the starting center, like the main center on like a championship team, unless he's surrounded by a great roster. He's like the perfect like starting center is like the 4th or 5th guy, or backup center where he would be awesome. And so he's the he fills that void. Yeah, he would fill that void perfectly. And I don't know of any other teams that he fits better in besides the Knicks and the Thunder. All right, we got 6 more guys. So we got enough. See, we got enough time, right? Oh, we got enough time. So next one up, Matt, DeMar DeRozan.
I really I'm really lost on this one. I thought he would re-sign with the Bulls, but then the Bulls traded away Caruso for Giddey, but they didn't get any picks for it. So I guess they're rebuilding kinda. I have 2 teams here. I think he could re-sign with the Bulls for like a 3-year deal, or if the Sixers whiff on Paul George and don't attempt to trade for Brandon Ingram, I think he will be in Philly. I think, John, you said that earlier. But yeah, I guess the Bulls. I'm really unsure about this guy.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. I was, thinking Bulls return until Caruso got traded, but they do have like money to pay him, so that, and we mentioned earlier if the Sixers whiff on Paul George or, I guess Klay Thompson, but I think DeMar DeRozan to Philly could make sense. And just looking at the comment section, Spurs for DeRozan, that could seem pretty cool, returning there and, giving Wemby a little bit of a break and giving him like another scorer or just another ball handler in general. I think that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spurs sounds cool, but yeah, like I'm thinking Raptors because I don't know. Yeah, like maybe if the Sixers whiff on PG or OG, I'm definitely thinking he just definitely goes to Philly. But yeah, if not, I think he just stays in Chicago where he's comfortable. For these last 4 picks, I think I kind of want to just go through them pretty quickly. You can give a quick explanation, but yeah, I do have one more thing I want to talk about after that. So last one up, we have Klay Thompson. Not last one. Next one up, Klay Thompson. John.
Yeah, Klay Thompson was interesting to me. I think he's going to be asking for a lot of money just based on his career, but I think you saw it. I think it's kind of tough with him because I think his decrease in, his kind of step down, I guess you can call it, was because of, I think he's nervous playing with that injury. And, it happens. I get it. It kind of sucks. So I could see him returning to the Warriors, but I also think a lot of this kind of comes down to what Paul George, what OG Anunoby, what like these other wings do. And if teams whiff, then they probably go and overpay a guy like Klay Thompson. So I had the Warriors and the Sixers here, but I think it really all kind of depends on like which domino falls first.
Yeah, this is quite fitting because I did my best Klay Thompson playing game impression last night during our
As did I. Yeah.
our summer league game. Tough look for us. I think he's going to re-sign with the Warriors. It was kind of the same thing with Draymond last year. Like, oh, he's going to leave, or whenever he signed the contract, it might have been 2 off seasons ago now, but it was like, oh, he's going to leave. But I think, the Warriors are just kind of riding out this core until they retire. But if he doesn't go to the Warriors, I think he will go to the Orlando Magic. I saw he was linked there a little bit. The Magic have some money to spend and desperately need shooters. So I think they might take a shot with Klay Thompson.
I'm going to say the Warriors too. Next one up, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. I'm just going to ask, do you guys think he's resigning with Denver, or do you think do you do something else? No, you don't. Okay, yeah, dive in then, Matt.
I think he's going to ask for too much money. I think he already declined his $15 million player option.
Right.
And I really had no idea where he was going to go, but a lot of people are saying the Sixers, and I think that's the right fit. They even the max spot. They also have some extra money to spend, and he'd be an awesome role player for them.
Oof. Don't like that.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. Do the Sixers, if they bring in Paul George, do they have enough money to overpay KCP? Or if they whiff on two of the bigger wings, do they overpay KCP? And do they give him that money? So it's interesting. Right. I had the Sixers as well because I read a couple things on just him being linked there. But I guess it's the same thing with Klay Thompson, where you just kind of look to see where other guys go before you can kind of make an assumption of where he's going.
Speaking of Sixers, Tobias Harris.
Detroit.
Yeah, me too. I think Detroit has some money. They know they're not going to be in contention anytime soon, so they're going to bring in a vet that has been there before. They're going to overpay for him, and he'll be there for a couple of years.
And I think he could. I think he'll be better in Detroit too. I think it'll be like less pressure. He can play with a couple of rookies, and maybe like I don't think like mentor is the right word here because Cade's better, but like I think he could maybe like help out those young guys a little bit, and just like just help along.
I think mentor's the right word since he's been through a lot in his career. Definitely. And last one up, I have a controversial one. Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, I saw a lot of things about Valanciunas, and it looks like he's pretty heavily rumored to go to the Lakers.
Yep.
Which is pretty interesting to me. I think that actually it's a pretty good fit because I think Valanciunas is one of the more underrated bigs in the league.
Absolutely.
And with the addition of him, you can slide AD to that 4, and we all know he's more comfortable in that 4. And I think that would be a great ad for the Lakers. I think bringing him in would definitely be good for both sides.
Yeah, that's a great point. We talked about it before, but the Thunder need a center, so if they don't get Hartenstein, I think they could get Valanciunas.
I'm not sure.
Absolutely. So before we go, guys, what do you think is the most underrated holiday?
Underrated holiday?
Yes.
I have a top 2 holiday that's coming up, actually.
Is that
maybe so? Top 1, 4th of July.
I happen to agree with that. And I hope you all agree with it too, because I mentioned a few weeks ago, but we are selling All American Hoops merch, different colors in all different adult sizes. Buy them now so you can get them before your barbecue. I can see John's probably getting his right now. Barbecue, you can show them off to your friends. Matt, do you have any friends that like very nice, John? I'm wearing mine, obviously. John and Matt, do you guys have any friends that don't like basketball by any chance?
I do.
They're dorks.
They are dorks. But however, we love nerds, and we got their backs too. If they don't like basketball, they don't want basketball in their shirts. Looks a little smaller here, but however, these come in armor groups, but they have sunglasses on them instead. So very cool deal. Very cool design by our producer Tony, Sports Fluence. So so click the link in my bio, All American Hooper, as I mentioned before. So follow me on all social media platforms, All American Hooper, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. My bio, it has the first 2 links are the shirts. As I mentioned, buy them now so you can have them before your 4th of July barbecue party. With John Driscoll and Matt Driscoll in the All American Hoops podcast. Have a great night, everyone.